Good morning everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today what we're going to be working on is replacing the brackets that the two yellow fog lights that are mounted on our windshield where the ditch lights normally go. We're going to be swapping out those brackets so that we can have a two mount bracket where we can add extra auxiliary lights when we get those. So follow along, let's see how this one goes. Alright, so my dad and I, we installed these two yellow fog lights with these supports on here. And they do fine, they're great, but we noticed that one of them is not necessarily sitting flat and level like we want it to, and it just comes with, they're a little bit cheaper quality, they're not top of the line by any means, but they work for sure. We got another set of brackets in that are from the same company, and so maybe the same quality, we'll see in a second, but we want to just swap them out so that one, they're level and flat, but two, the second option that we're adding allows you to provide two auxiliary lights. So you could add a fog light, you could add a floodlight, you could add proper ditch lights, whatever you want to put on there. And so that's just kind of a cool added custom feature that we're going to be adding to that. But I'll show you real quick how the one does not sit level, and that's really the primary reason. It's kind of like annoying me that it's not level, and so we're going to swap that out. So as you can see on the far side there, that one looks nice and level in terms of that black bracket that it sits on. When we focus in here on this one, you can really see how this one is not level at all. And so we want to fix this. So like any good Jeeper, you got to have the tools. You got to have them on hand. And so we're going to open up the back here. We're going to grab some tools. I always store my stuff under the seat. Sorry for the hot mess here. We've still got to clean up the Jeep. But I have this nice bag in this green tote here that's got all my go-to tools. And so pretty much anything on the Jeep, you're going to need these Torx bits. You pick them up at Harbor Freight for pretty cheap, and mine are 3/8 because I have a 3/8 socket wrench, and that's literally all we're going to need today to get these off. In terms of the brackets, I'll show you what we're going to use to get the lights off and put onto the new ones. Alright, so if you've never wired up any ditch lights or anything like that in front of your windshield here on any of your Jeeps, the Wranglers or the Gladiators, they're really simple, and I'll pull this off and show you here. But essentially you just need to take these two bolts off, and the two bolts that our mounts are currently mounted into, and they're the same Torx bit size. You take that off and this whole cowling right here will just come right off. And the really cool thing is when we take this off, you'll see there's an actual channel that you can run your wiring all the way through to the other side where your auxiliary light switch wires are if you have that installed. But if your battery, if you don't have those auxiliary switches, your battery's on that side too, so your wiring's gonna go over there anyway. So I like this feature. I'll show you what it looks like when we pull these off. But that's just really cool to know. We're going to need a Torx bit, and I believe it's a Torx 45. Let's check it out. Just kidding. That's too big. We're going to go with the Torx 40. This looks like it's got some wear and tear on it, and so yeah, that's right. So let's go ahead and get this whole cowling off. We'll get the mount taken off, and we'll get the light off as well, and then we'll show you what that looks like. Alright, so now that we got these two bolts out, it's a little stuck, had to add a little bit of soap water to get it released. And now that we've got it released, that is what the holder and mount looks like out. And then if you just put your cowl back on, obviously there's nothing there. It's pretty simple. But all these use is, and I'll go through these lights in a second, but it's just a size 13 spanner, 14 spanner, probably 14. Just kidding. Yeah, 17. Finally figured out that it was a size 17 spanner, and a shout out to my brother for getting these cobalt ratchet spanners. I don't know what the real technical term is, but thanks Zach, appreciate these. But these are awesome because you just stick them on the bottom, get them the right direction, and they're like a ratchet. You can basically loosen them up. Yeah, so basically unplugged it, and then yeah, you grab your size 17 spanner and you put it to the bottom, and this is where we're just trying to loosen it up so we can get the actual light part off. Boom. So we got this one side off. With that off, essentially what we're looking at with these these lights is, if you don't know, these are the Morimoto 2-banger pods. These are the yellow floods, so they're not really giving me any extra light when I'm driving, but what they are doing is just adding a ton of light to the front of the vehicle so that oncoming vehicles can see us, and it does cut through a little bit of that fog. So now that we got this off, let's go ahead and do the other side real quick and get that one taken off. Alrighty, so we basically have the 2 mounts off right now, and looking at the bottom, the one definitely could use a little bit of sanding to make it level, which is this one here on my left hand. But with, like I said before, we're going to take these two, we're going to ditch them, we're going to put the ones with the double mounts on, and so that way we can just have an extra option for, you know, maybe white ditch lights instead of the yellow fogs, add some visibility for me to drive onto the sides for animals or when we're off-roading, things like that. So let's go ahead and get those bad boys out and show you what the differences are between those two. All right, so you can see here we have the box that they come in. These are Karasam, the company. Like I said, not necessarily name brand by any means, but they're cheap, they work, they come with the quality that you pay for. And so for these ones, they have the double mounts. So not only do you just have that one single option like the other ones do, you'll have a second actual mounting place on it for like that extra light I was talking about. You open it up, very similar texture, very similar design, with the exception of adding that second light, of course. And so when you pull them out, that's what you're looking at, right? And so this spot here is for your second option, for probably where we're going to be mounting our yellow fogs. And then this is where you can add that second light that's maybe pointed out towards the ditch or wherever you want it, looking forward, whatever it may be. So that's what we're going to install today. All right, so with these new double mounts, let's go ahead and grab one, and let's do a quick dry fit and just see if they sit level, see what that hood clearance looks like. Oh yeah, that one definitely sits level. All right, so now that we got these out, we're gonna see if we can mount the lights on, have decent hood clearance. So I'm just gonna go ahead and grab the light that I had, mount that on here, and see how that goes. The bolt that came with our lights, that 17 size nut, but the overall bolt is probably not gonna fit into the standard mounting point that they gave us. As you can see, it's pretty small. So for the sake of mounting it, I think we're gonna change plans. Instead of having it mount to the original position we wanted, which is up here, but in the interest of getting them mounted and just being able to use them, I'm gonna go ahead and put them in the first position where they were on the other brackets. So for right now, yeah, they're just gonna end up being mounted. They're gonna look something like that. If you wanna look at it from the top, that's what it would look like. So we're gonna put both of these kind of in the center to the side, just like they were before. And then maybe we could find extra lights that would go up here, or we could swap them out, like I said, with the hardware if we pick up something a little bit smaller. Well, while we figure out where the heck that nut went to on field trip, I think we're just gonna go ahead and start and do the other side. And so we'll go ahead and take this one completely apart. It's nice and loose now. Yeah, we'll thread it through this bad boy, making sure that we've got it sit on there properly. Biggest thing is making sure that this thing is facing forward. It's kind of snug going through the rail, and so you kind of almost have to like thread it even though it's not threaded, just to get it through. All right, so now that I've got it like loosely fitted, I'm gonna go ahead and put the nut on the bottom, the lock nut. But one thing that's really cool about these ones is we can kind of slide them. So if this is the up close, you know, you can slide this light position left and right on here. And so I actually like them sit a little bit closer on the hood together in terms of the width-wise. So I'm gonna push them all the way to the end, which makes it easier for mounting. And then also I'm just gonna go ahead and get this soft tightened so that it's good. Carriage bolts locked in. But I'll just get this tightened up so I don't lose this nut. And then we can go on an adventure. See where the other one went and took its field trip to. It's probably right where I left it. Alright, that's a soft soft mount essentially. So that's what that would look like sitting straight on from top down. A key piece was we needed to make sure that the light was actually mounted on here first, because once you lock this in, it's a little bit harder to get to this. It's not impossible, but it's a lot easier if you could just do this while this whole bracket is off. And then once it's on, you can just go ahead and throw that on there, tighten this down, plug it in, and you're good to go. And then a quick disclaimer, I'm not working at like 4 in the morning here. You're gonna hear a ton of roosters in the background. It's because our neighbors have a ton of chickens and roosters, and they crow at all points of the day, including 11:30, half hour before lunch. So that's for those folks sleeping in late on a Saturday, I guess. We're gonna go ahead and get this one all snugged up. Just like the other one, we're kind of getting it squared up that way, and in the center, all the way over. We'll feel that tightness on the carriage bolt. It doesn't want to go any further. And then we will get it as straight as we can. And once we've got it kind of where we want it, tighten it in, get a lovely rooster crow. And then this one should be pretty much good to go. So I'll go ahead and reattach it onto actual cowl and see what that looks like from the side. I think we're looking pretty good there. So now it's just a matter of using the exact same hardware that we had when we took it off to put back in. So we'll get all that dry fit put in. I'm not going to snug everything up because I'll show you something you want to be cognizant of whenever you're working with these panels, is that they can go back on awkward. And if you have any sort of it's not flush, you have any pop out or indentation from this cowling sticking out, you need to do your wiring differently or just mess with it so that it's not causing some sort of bubble inside. So that's something to look forward to. I got everything buttoned up before and did not check that, and then I realized there's a big indent on the side. Now this piece that it does mount to, there are metal brackets on the inside, and that's what it threads into, the metal bracket and the welded nut that's attached. But these pieces are kind of like a heavy duty plastic. So I don't necessarily want to crank too hard on them. Don't want to crack them. I do want to just get everything snug so that things not going to fly off on me. I kind of feel like that's where we're at right now. And the last and final thing is to plug this guy in. And then we will, tonight when it's dark, get this thing set up against the bright white wall of the garage, turn on the lights, angle them the way we want, make sure they're at the right elevation, and they're not pointed out or anything like that, or if we are pointed out, they're at the right spots to do. For right now, tonight when we do this, it's just going to be straightforward and not glaring in people's eyes. Cool, let's go do the next one. So with this cowling part open, you can see literally what we've got here is just our wiring that goes over to the left side or passenger side of the hood compartment. And underneath here, it's hard to see with the lighting that we've got, but there's literally a channel that runs all the way to the other side of the hood. And so when you run your wiring from the opposite side, the passenger side, to this side, you can run it underneath this windshield wiper, powerhouse bay, and things like that, as there's plenty of room to get that wiring across and through. But yeah, once we got the cowl on, got our wiring set up, and I believe this one we still needed to snug up a little bit, so let me make sure this looked good on here. Doesn't look too bad actually. Let me just make sure it is snug. All right. Yeah, so now that we got this on here, we'll go ahead and mount that. Make sure we got it mounted properly. But this is going to kind of fall, so I'm going to give these a quick zap. All right, so this is what we've got. We've got these new mounts installed, the lights put back on. They definitely still need to be angled properly. They're not done, right now. They're still based off of the old mounts, but I'll do that tonight. But you can see this one is definitely way more level than the first one. And then on the other side here, looks a lot better. Alright, so with that, guys, thank you so much for watching the video today. I appreciate you sticking around for the content. Hopefully you enjoyed the ditch light install and the brackets that we used. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. Love to hear from you and answer those. But until then, we'll see you in the next video.